Greetings, superior beings, greetings, supreme being. Welcome to Universal Peace Television, the channel, or PC Hoffman on YouTube. This is the broadcast. What happens if Trump does not rectify the Iran nuclear deal? October 15th. Jesuits WW3? Question mark. So before I want to get into the articles, the news, I want to give a short message about how to prevent a world war, and that it is basically more important. Iran cannot pose any threat even if it would have nuclear weapons because of the missile shields. And the Jesuits may have planned a third Jesuit world war to depopulate Earth to 500 million and create a Luciferian global government. So they are Satanists posing as Christians, a military order, also covered in my previous broadcast. They've tortured 50 million innocent people to death, the first and second Jesuit World War, Jesuit Holocaust, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, etc. So that's why they were expelled, and now they have these directed energy weapons wherewith they also control the judges and military and police. Everybody basically with synthetic telepathy. Their minds are controlled, and everybody that deviates is tortured with directed energy weapons. Everybody that exposes them, etc., can expect these directed energy weapon torture attacks. So first let's read a short message to prevent World War III and create universal peace. Control the factors that control aging. That is what we should waste our money on wars and fake missions to Mars and shit like that. The Apollo moon landing hoax has been exposed by me and others also in my previous broadcast. You can see the video which shows NASA's official video of astronauts making sound on the moon, and that's impossible in a vacuum. There cannot be sound. So that proves beyond any reasonable doubt that that video is fake of the Apollo, and that the Apollo moon landings are fake. I've made a top 10 of things that prove it. So NASA are Freemasons, and Freemasons worship Lucifer, of course. You can read more about it online. You can Google anything I say, and I suggest you do so. My broadcasts are meant to be educational, informative, and be prepared. It's better, no matter what happens, be prepared with a radiological water filter and storable food, just in case. So let's read this.
To prevent World War III and create universal peace. 1.
Also, I want to say that it may be a misunderstanding. They have to give a list of suspect sites to the IAEA before they can do anything about it, basically. So that's another point I want to make. Okay. To prevent World War III and create universal peace. 1.
Leaders are advised to avoid attacking any countries, especially innocent civilians, and declare a ceasefire when possible. 2. Promote or mention universal peace. 3. Make weed tea, eat weed or smoke a peace pipe if absolutely necessary. 4. Be prepared, radiological water filter, storable food, just in caves. Solving Iran situation. To prevent a world war over Iran, Iranian leaders are advised to allow inspections in all of their facilities as agreed upon in the nuclear agreement. American leaders are advised to avoid any type of attack on Iran to avoid a world war with its ally Russia. American leaders are advised to first have an agreement with leaders of ally countries of Iran before even thinking about bombing the facilities that do not allow inspections to avoid the Third Jesuit World War, mutually assured destruction, and a 7-year nuclear winter which would be colder than the next ice age. Iran cannot pose any threat to Israel with its Iron Dome and other missile shields. Israel has nuclear weapons which it may use to retaliate. Keep missile shields ready. Solving North Korea situation. To prevent a world war over North Korea, the North Korean leaders are advised not to attack any country, especially not the super peaceful Guam. American and other leaders are advised not to attack them if North Korean leaders would decide to attack Guam or any other nation, which would only kill innocent civilians, which some leaders may actually be trying to achieve, extermination of its own citizens to depopulate Earth, but to keep their missile shields ready so any nuclear attack can be warded off and the innocent civilians and elite are saved, and a perfect society in which we all will live happily eternally is created. This is far wiser than obliterating ourselves, the human race. We are not overpopulated in reality, so don't believe the hype. Get rid of the people responsible for the World War, possibly the leader of the Jesuits, Adolfo Nicolas, instead of the innocent civilians they want you to kill. Take over, end the war, create the non-fictional utopian society ASAP to speed up finding ways to control the 7 factors that control aging during our lifetimes. They are always the ones to tell you who your enemies are, but they're never the ones to fight and to die. From the song Life's in the Balance. This would be the 3rd Jesuit World War, watch out.
So that part about suspect locations was in the New York Times article contradicting Trump. UN monitor says Iran complies with nuclear deal. So far, according the IAEA and American officials, the United States has not delivered a list of suspect locations. That should be so far according to the IAEA. I wonder if they've corrected that error on the New York Times webpage, but I doubt it. Anyway, that was August 31st, 2017. And what are the options? Well, I guess there are only 2 options: sanctions, bombing, and 3rd option is doing nothing, basically, which they usually leave out. And I'm for whatever is best to prevent a 3rd Jesuit World War. To prevent a 7-year nuclear winter, though I'm prepared. It's not something I hope for. It would suck even more than what we have now, and it would set us back qua achieving negligible senescence, creating a cure for aging, cure against aging, controlling these 7 factors that control aging. So now we can read the article. Let's do this. This is Mail Online article. Iran is working on creating an arsenal of nukes in secret facilities, report claims. 11th of October 2017. In 2015 deal, Iran agreed with major powers to cut nuclear weapons program. Well, and strange Fox News article. And these are mainstream media, so they're fake news. You could argue they're controlled by the CIA, Project Mockingbird, and we shouldn't believe anything they write, basically. It can all be a big fat lie, and usually it's fluff. And if they've prepared such a world war, they wouldn't write about it in their articles. On Fox News we read, on Iran, Trump's advisors offer dumb, unquote, and dumber, unquote, options that will accomplish nothing. That's perhaps playing in on the thought that people have that President Trump's policy is dumb, basically, that he has bad ideas. But I think it is more like trashing the nuclear agreement, basically. That the idea to preserve that is dumb, basically. But I'd have to check. Perhaps it's perhaps the opposite is true. So let's read some of this material. This has a video with it or not? And what other news is there? We can start with the recent news overview of Google News. The fake news overview, basically.
Iran. Trump's gift to the hardliners. The New York Review of Books 19 hours ago. If Donald Trump decertifies the nuclear deal this week, the political fallout within Iran will be no different from earlier instances of Washington's. Iran FM briefs Parliament on Trump's threat to nuclear deal. News and Observer 5 hours ago. Trump's plan for the Iran nuclear deal runs straight through a. International. CNBC 18 hours ago. Trump's Iran arrangement. Opinion. New York Times 4 hours ago. We are on a tightrope, Trump poised to walk away from Iran nuclear. In depth. The Guardian 7 hours ago. UK reaffirms commitment to Iran nuclear deal in call with Trump. International Radio 4 to 6 hours ago. The expectation is that he'll decertify. News.com 26 minutes ago.
Yes, well, I'm thinking about this. If he does decertify, then they keep the agreement, basically. So that could lead to further sanctions.
Iran president defends guards in show of unity anticipating Trump. Reuters 1 hour ago. Iran will crush the U.S. as all options on the table if Trump maintains. Express.co.uk 14 hours ago. Iranian Armed Forces spokesperson, it's time to teach Americans. International. Fox News 20 hours ago. Iran foreign minister tells lawmakers of plans to respond to Trump. Reuters 4 hours ago. Beirut. Reuters. Iran will react sharply to any U.S. move against the nuclear deal with global powers. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad. Trump to announce broad Iran strategy this week. White House. Reuters 18 hours ago. Washington. Reuters. U.S. President Donald Trump will make an announcement this week on an overall Iran strategy, including whether Trump's expected Iran move would defy allies abroad and at home. First read is your briefing from Meet the Press and the NBC political unit on the day's most important political stories and why they matter. Iran is working on creating an arsenal of nukes in secret facilities, report claims. In 2015 deal. Iran.
So this reminds me of basically Iraq. They thought that Iraq was making weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, and it turned out that they did not. Another 1 million dead Iraqis. So with the depleted uranium children and the tactical nukes going off in Syria, I think that creates terrorists, and I don't know if that is worth the price of dead soldiers, and cost of war.com reflects the well, you could call it moronic or stupidity, basically, because we have not achieved negligible senescence, so people are aging and they're dying, and you will die and everyone will die if that cure against aging, controlling the factors that control aging, is not achieved in time.
Agreed with major powers to cut nuclear weapons program. President Donald Trump expected to remove U.S. support for the deal this week. Now a group has claimed Iran is continuing to build and test nuclear weapons. National Council of Resistance Iran says secret tests ongoing at 4 facilities. Read more. http://www.dailymail.co.uk/news/article 4969186/Iran Working Arsenal Nukes Group claims. Iran is creating an arsenal of nukes in secret facilities with the help of North Korean scientists, a group has claimed in a new report. The National Council of Resistance Iran says the Iranian government has not halted its nuclear program despite the 2015 agreement with the US and 5 other international powers. The report released today claims there are 4 major sites that with high degrees of certainty have been used for ongoing nuclear operations. Read more. http://www.dailymail.co.uk/news/article 4969. Iran is working on creating an arsenal of nukes, a report has claimed. Pictured, the Haftar military complex near Isfahan. The National Council of Resistance Iran says the Iranian government has not halted its nuclear program. Pictured, the Nur building and Mijdrecht site +11. The National Council of Resistance Iran says the Iranian government has not halted its nuclear program. Pictured, the Nur building and Mijdrecht site. Read more. http://www. The Iranian resistance claims to have found this out by infiltrating and gathering intelligence on the research centers. One of the centers it believes is being used to create nukes is the Parchin military complex 30 miles southeast Tehran. This is the HQ of the country's military research academy and is split into areas known as plans. One of the plans, Plan 6, is 500 acres large and fenced off. It is officially a chemical industries complex, but the NCRI believes this is front for nuclear weapons building. Related articles. Previous. 1. Next. May pleads with Trump to stand by Iran deal on nuclear. Victory for Trump as Supreme Court dismisses one of 2. Share this article. Share. The group's report reads, to conceal the true nature of its work, the Research Academy conducts its research and activities under the cover of conventional research. However, the Research Academy itself is completely independent and closed off. The 52-page report titled Iran's Nuclear Core, Uninspected Military Site contradicts the UN's International Atomic Energy Agency, which insists Iran has halted nuclear research. The National Council of Resistance Iran is a broad coalition of democratic Iranian organizations that is very critical of the government and wants the country to become a secular democratic republic. The group's deputy director Alireza Jafarzadeh told Fox News, it has been known for years that Iran has 2 nuclear programs. One is civilian and the other, the military, has the goal of giving Iran its first nuclear bomb. Iran's much-touted test launch of a new medium-range ballistic missile last Friday turned out to be fake. +11. Iran's much-touted test launch of a new medium-range ballistic missile last Friday turned out to be fake. Hassan Rouhani is the 7th and current president of Iran, who signed the 2015 deal. +11. Hassan Rouhani is the 7th and current president of Iran, who signed the 2015 deal. Haftar military-industrial complex, one of the centers NCRI believes is being used to create nukes. Plus 11. Haftar military-industrial complex, one of the centers NCRI believes is being used to create nukes. The civilian sector of the nuclear program has systematically provided a plausible logistical cover for the military sector, and acts as a conduit for it. The military aspect of the program has been and remains at the heart of Iran's nuclear activities. The NCRI also suspects weapons building at the NRI industrial site at the Khojar military complex, a 75-mile complex southeast of Tehran. The report says, the project to actively pursue production of nuclear warheads is conducted in Khojar by the Hemmat Missile Industries Group. Due to the extreme sensitivity of manufacturing nuclear warheads, NRI industry has its own security and military police. Individuals who have clearance to other parts of Khojar site are not allowed to go to this section. It says that the complex has lots of large underground tunnels for the possibility and flexibility of covering up the activities of the warhead project, or transferring it to a different location in the complex. This is the Parton military complex at southeast Tehran. Plus 11. This is the Parton military complex at southeast Tehran. Plan 6 Zainadin in Parton military complex. Plus 11. Plan 6 Zainadin in Parton military complex. Plan 6 of Parton, which is where the NCRI suspects nuclear weapons are being made. Plus 11. Plan 6 of Parton, which is where the NCRI suspects nuclear weapons are being made. The group also claims that North Korean experts are working with the regime. Pictured, the entrance to the NRI site. Plus 11. The group also claims that North Korean experts are working with the regime. Pictured, the entrance to the NRI site. It also claims that North Korean experts are working with the regime and have helped with designing the aerodynamics aspects, the shape of the warhead, and have also provided the design for the Hemmat site, its tunnels, and underground centers. The other sites the report mentions are the Haftar site near Isfahan and the Sanjarian site east of Tehran, which it believes was until recently the central testing site but is now only semi-active. The bombshell report comes with days to go until Mr. Trump is expected to withdraw his support for the 2015 nuclear agreement. Mr. Trump repeatedly denounced the deal, under which Iran agreed to give up nuclear weapons programs in return for the lifting of economic sanctions, during his election campaign. Last month he told the UN General Assembly that the agreement was an embarrassment to the United States. However, other signatories including the UK, France and Germany are firmly in favor of keeping the settlement in place. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani is seen as having ushered in a more moderate approach in the Middle Eastern state. Failure to certify the so-called Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, would trigger a 60-day period during which the U.S. Congress would have to decide whether to reimpose sanctions on Iran. Last month Trump told the UN General Assembly that the 2015 Iran agreement was an embarrassment to the United States. Pictured, a suspected testing site in Iran. Plus 11. Last month Trump told the UN General Assembly that the 2015 Iran agreement was an embarrassment to the United States. Pictured, a suspected testing site in Iran. One of the nuclear sites is believed to be located near Sanjarian village. Plus 11. One of the nuclear sites is believed to be located near Sanjarian village. Iran foreign minister promises a crushing response if U.S. moves against nuclear deal. Read more. http://www.dailymail.co.uk/news. Iran will react sharply to any U.S. move against the nuclear deal with global powers, Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif told the Iranian parliament Wednesday. The comments were the latest in a series of tough remarks from Iran's leadership, showing a united front between its pragmatist and hardline factions as U.S. President Donald Trump prepares to harden policy towards Tehran this week. In the closed session, Zarif emphasized that if the Americans take any steps against the nuclear deal, that the Islamic Republic of Iran will give them a more crushing response. Shahbaz Hussainpour, a lawmaker representing the city of Sirjan, told the Islamic Republic news agency. Another politician, Behruz Nemati, said the foreign minister discussed specific steps Trump and the U.S. Congress might take, and Iran's plans for reciprocal action to each anticipated U.S. move. Nemati did not say what actions Zarif had described. Trump is expected this week to decertify the landmark 2015 deal under which Iran agreed with global powers to accept curbs on its nuclear program in return for the lifting of international sanctions. Decertification would not by itself withdraw the United States from the agreement, but would pass that decision on to Congress, requiring lawmakers to decide within 60 days whether to reimpose sanctions. Trump is also expected to declare Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps a terrorist organization. Since the Guards have a vast economic empire in Iran, such a declaration could make it more difficult for Iranian businesses to access the international financial system. Washington has already blacklisted other entities and individuals for supporting Guards' activities, but has not blacklisted the Guards themselves. The threat of increased U.S. pressure has been met by a united front of criticism from within Iran, with members of the pragmatic faction that seeks greater interaction with the West showing their support for the hardline Guards. Read more. Iran's secret sites linked to nuclear weapons development revealed. Fox News. Share or comment on this article, email.
Well, basically there is no real evidence that proves beyond any reasonable doubt that they're producing nuclear weapons in these facilities. Go nuclear waste. So if you have nuclear weapons, they have nuclear waste, and they are trying to make money of it, because getting rid of it costs a lot of money basically. So that's the problem with nuclear energy. That's why I'm against nuclear energy. And I'm still the anti-global government movement. Sea energy is more efficient than wind energy, so we don't need all these wind turbines. And the water-powered car was the first car created by Isaac de Rivas. The first engine, internal combustion engine, was a water-powered engine, not petroleum-based cancer oil. And the military also have this Danny Klein patented car that drives on water. They are using a hybrid, though they could make one that drives solely on water. And they don't, because the cancer oil barons make a fortune, and they use this mainly to control populations basically. People have to pay a lot of money for cancer oil to move from A to B. So now we also see electrical cars to cover up the water-powered car, and these wind turbines everywhere to give the illusion that the government has gone green, etc. And they want to pretend that there is global warming for their eco-tax money scam. More about this in my previous broadcasts. So one example is also cancer chemtrails, which is not a conspiracy theory but a conspiracy fact. And I'm a conspiracy factist, not a conspiracy theorist. But we can read some more articles. So these pictures don't prove anything. They don't prove that there are nuclear weapons there, nor that they are producing nuclear weapons. They're just military facilities. You can look at other military facilities, compare them, to find out what type of military facility we're talking about basically. But the experts, many experts I think, agree that Iran is not producing nuclear weapons, so I'd have to check up on this to be sure. It's better to be prepared anyhow and to help prevent a world war over Iran, which would happen if they'd attack Iranian facilities without an agreement with President Putin about this. And I've advised against that, to first have an agreement. If Iran is in violation of the nuclear deal, then there are several roads one can travel, and one option is also to do nothing. I mean, Israel has not signed the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, the NPT. Shouldn't they be sanctioned for not signing that? And if they had, then would they have been sanctioned like they are sanctioning Iran? Any speech errors are made by a neural network with synthetic telepathy. Just read the next article then.
On Iran, Trump's advisors offer dumb and dumber options that will accomplish nothing. Angry at the options he was presented with last July when he reluctantly agreed to certify to Congress that Iran was in compliance with the 2015 nuclear deal, the JCPOA, President Trump demanded another option for his next certification decision due by October 15. He didn't get it. Instead, the president's national security advisors, led by National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, have presented him with two absurd options to decertify the JCPOA but to keep the United States in this deeply flawed agreement. These options are so bad that they are best described as dumb and dumber. Mr. Trump's advisors also refused to present him with a thoughtful Iran deal exit strategy drafted by Ambassador John Bolton or to let Bolton meet with the president to brief this option. After he was blocked from meeting with the president, Bolton published this option in National Review. Under the dumb option, Mr. Trump would decertify the JCPOA, remain in the agreement to fix it later, and Congress would reimpose sanctions lifted under the nuclear agreement. Congress would act under provisions of the Coker-Cardin Act which allow expedited consideration of taking such action over a 60-day period. The middle ground that these options supposedly represent is an illusion. Their sole purpose is to ensure that President Trump never withdraws from an agreement he has correctly called an embarrassment to the United States. This dumb option has two huge problems. First, there is zero chance Iran will agree to any changes to the nuclear deal or give back the huge concessions it extracted from Secretary of State John Kerry. Second, it appears that moderate Senate Republicans will side with Democrats to block passage of any sanctions that could endanger the Iran deal. The dumber option, unfortunately, the top option of Trump's advisors, calls for President Trump to decertify, remain in the agreement, and to not impose any additional sanctions. The purpose of this option is to end the requirement that the president certify the agreement to Congress every 90 days and postpone imposing new sanctions to give U.S. diplomats a chance to fix the JCPOA and convince Iran to agree to changes. This is a dumber option because it is exactly what the Obama administration wanted and what Hillary Clinton would have pressed for if she had won the election, protecting the JCPOA by dropping the prospect of new sanctions, doing away with the certification requirement and answering criticism of the deal by engaging in endless talks with Iran and European diplomats to fix the agreement. Iran deal supporters mostly want the US to remain.
And the stocks, I liked it. It would also prevent a third Jesuit World War.
In the agreement because they claim Iran is in compliance and a U.S. withdrawal would alienate America's European allies. The "we must avoid alienating European leaders" argument is unlikely to sway Mr. Trump since he proved by his decision to withdraw from the equally flawed Paris Climate Accord that he rightly believes Europe does not have a veto over U.S. foreign policy or his decisions as president. Many disagree Iran is in compliance with the JCPOA, including Senators Tom Cotton, R. Arkansas, Ted Cruz, R. Texas, David Perdue, R. Georgia, and Marco Rubio, R. Florida, who spelled out major instances of Iranian non-compliance and cheating in a July 11, 2017 letter to Secretary of State Tillerson. The senators noted in their letter that Iran refuses to allow inspections of military sites and reports by German intelligence of Iranian cheating. Making this worse, IAEA Director Amano made a stunning revelation in a late September Reuters interview that the IAEA is unable to verify Iran is implementing the JCPOA because it does not have the means to ensure that Tehran has not engaged in activities that could contribute to the development of a nuclear explosive device. Under the Dumb and Dumber options being promoted by McMaster, Tillerson and other Trump advisors, this farcical situation will continue as the United States remains in the nuclear deal while engaging in pointless talks begging the Iranians for a better one. The middle ground that these options supposedly represent is an illusion. Their sole purpose is to ensure that President Trump never withdraws from an agreement he has correctly called an embarrassment to the United States. President Trump's upcoming decision on how he will deal with the dangerous and flawed nuclear agreement is a moment for moral clarity and maybe a defining moment of his presidency. There is only one reasonable and moral option: a clean withdrawal using the Bolton Plan. Finally, President Trump also must send a message to his national security advisors by soundly rejecting the Dumb and Dumber Iran deal options they presented.
I thought there was a video with this. Let's reload the page. So then we can review the videos that will play. Fox News.
All right, get this. President Trump is reportedly considering decertifying President Obama's landmark nuclear deal with Iran, a deal that was opposed by several major Democrats. Democrats like Chuck Schumer, Ben Cardin, Senator Menendez, and Joe Manchin. So, will some of those Democrats high-five President Trump if he decides to decertify the deal and kick it back to Congress? Joining us right now to bring us inside the minds of America's politicians is Jonathan Wachtel, former director of communications for the U.S. mission to the United Nations, and was side by side with Nikki Haley for quite a few months. And in Washington, Dennis Kucinich, a Fox News contributor and former Democratic congressman. So you know, Dennis, Congressman, great to see you. You know this was not a popular deal when it passed. You know they got under 50 votes in the Senate, and they used some maneuver to get this through. Do you think it will remain unpopular if he kicks it back to Congress and decertifies on the 15th of October?
I know a number of the people who are making this decision, and I'd say they're going to look at what the record's been, and the record is that this agreement is working. There's no evidence that there's been any subterfuge. Iran has not been reprocessing, they haven't been diverting, they haven't been constructing a heavy water reactor. It's working, and I think that the members are going to have to take that into account.
There's no ballistic missile clause in this. They've been shooting off. They've been still harassing our ships with their fast boats out in the Persian Gulf. And add to this, Jonathan Wachtel, we actually aren't behind the inspection process, and there's a sunset clause on this deal. If they go by the letter of the law, in 10, 15 years, they could be doing a nuclear deal and still not be in violation of this agreement. They could have nuclear weapons.
It was a flawed deal going into it. It remains the same deal that was flawed right now, and there are problems with it. Look, even what the congressman said a short time ago, that they've been complying completely. Well, we're working on the faith of what the IAEA is saying, the International Atomic Energy Agency. They don't have access to Iran's military sites. And there are some issues also that have come to the surface that in fact, maybe some weird activity is going on at Parchin, one of the primary sites in Iran.
You told me something in the green room fascinating. The IAEA came out and said that they did have a nuclear weapons program, and they shelved it. Now, the Iranians said, we never had a nuclear weapons program, and we had nothing to shelve. They said, we're not even pursuing that. There's a credibility issue there on something that fundamental.
There really is. Look, Newsweek published an interview today with the foreign minister, Javad Zarif, in which he said Iran never pursued a nuclear program. Iran will never pursue a nuclear program. look, they actually were doing something. They had a military dimension to their nuclear program. It was found and reported on by the IAEA before we went into the nuclear deal. They have in the nuclear deal a sunset clause that allows them to enrich uranium after a set period of years.
Right.
Why do you need that? Why do you need to enrich uranium if you have no intention of having a nuclear deal,
and
nuclear program?
And their whole country's on an ocean of oil, but they need nuclear energy now. They're worried about burning clean. Congressman, to your point, this program is in place and the sanctions are lifted and the money's been delivered. They got everything on the front end. In a way, they would love if President Trump walked away from this deal because they could go back to nuclear weaponry. They got the cash and now they're in the family of nations. They can trade with everybody, right?
Well, yeah, it's an interesting way that you put it, Brian, because this is a nuclear non-proliferation deal. And the money that Iran got back, that was their money. It was basically released. The question is, as you started to put it, if this deal is canceled, then Iran would be able to go ahead and go about nuclear activities that they're now prohibited from.
They always run a fake impeachment like with Bush, because they know they can only get away with these crimes by forming controlled opposition to themselves. Dennis Kucinich, who has introduced measures to impeach George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Fuck you, Dennis Kucinich. What did you really get for selling us out, you piece of shit? Posted on March 17, 2010. willerlemon.wordpress.com. We are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States. If that is the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it. David Rockefeller, Sr., born June 12, 1915. wikicode.org.
By virtue of this agreement, which was not just with the U.S.,
right.
There were 7 countries that were parties to this agreement. I don't see any reason in the world.
Right.
There's no evidence why the U.S. should pull out of this. There's no evidence why this agreement should be canceled. And frankly, the rest of the countries aren't going to pull out of it.
They might. France is also a little tentative about it. But I'm just going to think about this. Do you really think Chuck Schumer, Ben Cardin, and Senator Menendez are going to get behind the microphone and condemn President Trump when they didn't vote for this thing to begin with?
I think this goes beyond how they feel about the president. This is a national security issue. It's in the interest of the United States and the world to start to get rid of nuclear weapons and to stop non-nuclear nations from having them.
And lastly, Jonathan, just weigh in. Does Iran have any credibility at all? And did they earned the trust of anyone at the United Nations?
Look, a lot of countries have a bad relationship with the United States or look at us as, you know, with some sort of animus, and they're, of course, going to be supportive of Iran. That's just the nature of the world we live in. One of the problems that I have with what the congressman just said is that we don't know everything about Iran and what they're doing. There are real issues.
It's not our inspectors on the ground.
It's not our inspectors on the ground. It's the IAEA saying this. Yes, okay, they're in compliance. Why are they firing ballistic missiles? Why would the foreign minister of Iran...
That's not part of the agreement.
That's the problem.
I understand that's not part of the agreement, but if the agreement were negotiated today, knowing what Iran is doing in Syria, is doing in Yemen, firing ballistic missiles, I'm not even certain that there would have been an agreement. So why not ask this question now of Iran and the countries who are involved in these negotiations so that we can square away some of these problems?
Congressman Kucinich.
Yeah, well, this is a non-proliferation agreement. It's not about whether they're involved in other countries.
Congressman, there was a spirit of these negotiations. It was supposed to improve relations between the United States and Iran and other Western powers.
It's gotten worse. It started off with the renouncing terror. They said we're never going to do that, so then they just skipped over that. Jonathan Wachtel, Dennis Kucinich, thanks so much. All right, get this.
So basically, the US wants permanent bases in these countries in the Middle East. So we can expect something. Also, the fact that Rothschilds has sold large amounts of US assets and bought cancer oil in South America made points in the direction of higher cancer oil prices for some reason, and that can be caused by nuclear world war and sanctions, and also perhaps other factors. So they're speculating on that higher cancer oil price. So that was the Fox News article. The ncriran.org. National Council of Resistance of Iran. Foreign Affairs Committee. Well, it looks like it's in English. So is this an American thing or whatever? On their own website we can read this. Perhaps I should read a bit about it. So why is it not in Arabic or whatever they speak?
National Council of Resistance of Iran, NCRI. National Council of Resistance of Iran, a broad coalition of democratic Iranian organizations, groups, and personalities, was founded in 1981 in Tehran, Iran on the initiative of Masoud Rajavi, the leader of the Iranian resistance, parliament in exile. The NCRI is an inclusive and pluralistic parliament in exile that has more than 500 members, including representatives of ethnic and religious minorities such as the Kurds, Baluchis, Armenians, Jews and Zoroastrians, representing a broad spectrum of political tendencies in Iran. The NCRI aims to establish a secular democratic republic in Iran, based on the separation of religion and state. Women comprise 50% of the council's members. There are 5 organizations represented in the NCRI, including the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, MOI/MEK, the largest and most popular resistance group in Iran. Democratic decision-making. All members of the council have one vote. All decisions are adopted by a simple majority. 6-month provisional government.
Provisional government makes me think of the COG, continuity of government, instead of COS, continuity of society, the shadow government, the deep state. So they have this fake government waiting to destroy the real government and take over. To create a Luciferian global government, they want to create a crisis big enough to impose a totalitarian regime worldwide. This has always been the Jesuits' plan, that Neuordnung of Hitler, that is all the same thing, the New World Order, which had too many negative connotations. That's why they're now calling it a global government. Centralization, power to the pedo, versus power to the people, decentralization. So that's why I report about this. I am the anti-global government. Let's see if I can find the right imagery. There. Anti-global government movement, the AGGM. And there are many anti-NWO movements, of course. Real ones, and control the position. I also expose control the position. Fake resistance to prevent real resistance to the global government. They form fake resistance on many levels. They are control the position to themselves. So they pretend to be anti themselves to prevent any anti-movement from getting lots of people behind them and becoming powerful and influential. So with these depopulators, even experts and professionals and renowned scientists can be used to lie about certain matters to depopulate the earth. It's a satanic inversion, pretending of what is healing that it's sickening, and what is sickening that it's healing, to depopulate earth. That's their goal. Anyway, they want these permanent bases in the Middle East. Basically, it's blood for cancer oil, I would argue. That's definitely an element, if it's not the main thing, that these wars are about. And costofwar.com shows how much money they've spent on these wars already. So I'm anti-war and pro-universal peace. Peace is basically the absence of war, people living in harmony, enjoying the new technology and everything that is at our disposal in this day and age, versus the time that people didn't even have a toothbrush, etc. Oh yeah, I should also report I have been feeling kind of weak. Perhaps it also has to do with me not sleeping enough. But I think they were attacking my brain, and that it's an attempt to murder me in reality. And I also report about these directed energy weapon torture attacks in my broadcasts. And there are many groups, also controlled opposition, Kevin Annett and others, and they are formed to prevent the targeted individuals from uniting and actually doing something about it. Also, people cannot press charges of directed energy weapon torture, they can't press charges of incitement to commit genocide against these people with book quotes that prove they want to depopulate the earth. And I argue that that's in violation of the Genocide Convention anyway, when you want to exterminate 7 billion people to depopulate Earth to 500 million. And you think AIDS is not good enough, airborne Ebola could perhaps do it and stuff like that, then that's incitement to commit genocide. And whole crowds, standing ovations, crowds cheering, that can have to do with directed energy weapon torture. So they can hear a voice in their head that can give them severe pain and kill them remotely. And that can be used, and that is also used to extort judges and leaders worldwide. So that's not to be underestimated. There's synthetic telepathy and directed energy weapon torture capabilities. The voice of God weapon that can simulate any entity and human. So some people say, well, if Satan would exist, how would he manifest himself? They think he would manifest himself as God, basically, and God perhaps as Satan. So it's, but in reality, they both do not exist. Of course, the Bible is a collection of polytheistic plagiarized myths rolled into monotheism, and that proves beyond any reasonable doubt God does not exist. So all religions are man-made. It's a hoax to enslave the people of the pedo elite that are the only ones that have given themselves the power and made it legal for themselves to torture and kill people and shit. That's the government's monopoly on violence. It is called, you can Google this as well, as police provocateurs. More about this in my previous broadcast. So the government is criminal. They are infiltrated by these Jesuits and Freemasons, Luciferians. And as long as they control the judges, the government is criminal. You cannot use their system to do justice. So people should be wary of that and be prepared with the radiological waterfilter and storable food, because there are people that are bloody serious about illegally depopulating the earth. So I don't know about all this, but it's not in Arabic, so I think it's some kind of American thing to get these permanent bases there and to control the cancer oil supply also, etc. In previous broadcasts I've also focused more on what people can do about these directed energy weapon torture, etc. One is unite and put evidence online, because as long as you are the only ones that know, if you are the only one that knows a secret, then they can kill you for that, and then the secret is forever kept from the public. So if you disclose it online, then killing you is no use anymore. However, some of these people have taken an oath, etc. And it may be unwise to break that oath, unless there's a way they can do that without getting caught. That's the main rule for these people, not getting caught. That's their only rule. So whatever. Let's see if there's more interesting information online. I'm feeling kind of tired. A mullah is a Muslim learned in Islamic theology and sacred law. Freedom of religion. Freedom from religion. So it's about real laws, and real laws are supposed to be enforced by the police and military and judges, and they are supposed to protect and serve the taxpayers that have paid to be protected and served by the governments. But there are people that have infiltrated it that want to get rid of these governments to impose a totalitarian global government and depopulate the earth. And perhaps it's only thanks to the people in the government that are doing their job that we're all still alive today. Of course, it's also in their own advantage to do the right thing, usually, for a better timeline. Well, Reuters, Iran foreign minister tells lawmakers of plans to respond to Trump. But I think it's just part of a plan, bait and switch or whatever, to impose sanctions or even bomb these facilities where they don't allow the inspections, basically.
Iran foreign minister tells lawmakers of plans to respond to Trump moves. Reuters staff. 3 minutes read. Beirut, Reuters. Iran will react sharply to any U.S. move against the nuclear deal with global powers, Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif told the Iranian parliament Wednesday, according to a parliamentarian who attended the session quoted by state media. Reuters staff. 3 minutes read. Beirut, Reuters. Iran will react sharply to any U.S. move against the nuclear deal with global powers, Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif told the Iranian parliament Wednesday, according to a parliamentarian who attended the session quoted by state media. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif listens to anchor Charlie Rose at an event held in conjunction with the 72nd United Nations General Assembly in Manhattan, New York, U.S., September 27, 2017. The comments were the latest in a series of tough remarks from Iran's leadership, showing a united front between its pragmatist and hardline factions as U.S. President Donald Trump prepares to harden policy towards Tehran this week. In the closed session, Zarif emphasized that if the Americans take any steps against the nuclear deal, that the Islamic Republic of Iran will give them a more crushing response. Shahbaz Hussainpour, a lawmaker representing the city of Sirjan, told the Islamic Republic news agency, IRNA. Another lawmaker, Behruz Nemati, said the foreign minister discussed specific steps Trump and the U.S. Congress might take, and Iran's plans for reciprocal action to each anticipated U.S. move. Nemati did not say what actions Zarif had described. Trump is expected this week to decertify the landmark 2015 deal under which Iran agreed with global powers to accept curbs on its nuclear program in return for the lifting of international sanctions. Decertification would not by itself withdraw the United States from the agreement, but would pass that decision on to Congress, requiring lawmakers to decide within 60 days whether to reimpose sanctions. Trump is also expected to declare Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps a terrorist organization. Since the Guards have a vast economic empire in Iran, such a declaration could make it more difficult for Iranian businesses to access the international financial system. Washington has already blacklisted other entities and individuals for supporting Guards' activities, but has not blacklisted the Guards themselves. The threat of increased U.S. pressure has been met by a united front of criticism from within Iran, with members of the pragmatic faction that seeks greater interaction with the West showing their support for the hardline Guards. Iranian newspapers ran photos on Tuesday of Zarif, the urbane, U.S.-educated foreign minister, laughing and hugging the head of the Guards, Mohammad Ali Jafari. During the meeting with Zarif, Parliament members expressed their support for the Guards, Hussainpour said. Zarif also noted during the session that European countries will continue backing the nuclear deal regardless of what actions the U.S. may take, Hussainpour told IRNA. Trump's expected Iran move would defy allies abroad and at home. By Chuck Todd, Mark Murray and Kerry Dan. First read is your briefing from Meet the Press and the NBC Political Unit on the day's most important political stories and why they matter.
NBC News has learned from 3 officials at a wide-ranging Pentagon meeting this summer that the president called for a dramatic increase in the nation's nuclear arsenal, as many as during the Cold War era.
Wow. Well, first I have to think about what I'm going to say about this then. But I think that nuclear weapons are insane. We should get rid of all weapons of self-destruction. And spend less on the military-industrial complex. And spend a lot more on controlling the factors that control aging. So I hope that it's not too late to change President Trump's mind about this.
Battling some of his own top advisors. Now, an actual increase would violate nuclear arms control treaties going back to Ronald Reagan. That meeting taking place right before the Secretary of State called the president a moron. All of this comes as the president is locked in a high-stakes standoff with North Korea.
This morning, NBC News has learned striking new details about a July 20th meeting at the Pentagon that preceded Secretary of State Rex Tillerson calling the president a moron. At the time, the president said the meeting, which also included the defense secretary and vice president, cabinet members, and top military advisors, was very good.
Tremendous people, Pentagon, nothing like it.
But 3 officials present in the room describe a meeting that was at times tense. One key moment when the president told his national security team he wanted to expand the U.S. nuclear arsenal to what amounted to nearly 10 times its current level. The current number of U.S. nukes is approximately 4,000. According to the sources, the president was shown a chart of the history of the U.S. nuclear arsenal, which peaked in the late 1960s at roughly 32,000 weapons. The president told his team he wanted the U.S. to have about that many. And while some in the meeting didn't take the president literally, according to officials in the room, briefers explained to Mr. Trump why expanding America's nuclear stockpile isn't feasible. The U.S. is not planning to alter the size of its nuclear arsenal. It would not only break with decades of U.S. nuclear doctrine, but it would also violate a number of international treaties. Since his candidacy, Mr. Trump has been inconsistent with regards to his stance on nuclear weapons. While insisting he was against nuclear proliferation, in some instances, he seemed open to the idea.
But if you say to Japan, yes, it's fine, you get nuclear weapons, South Korea, you as well, and Saudi Arabia says we want them too.
Can I be honest with you? It's going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway. It's only a question of time. They're going to start having them, or we have to get rid of them entirely.
Shortly before his inauguration, Mr. Trump tweeted, "The United States must greatly strengthen and expand its nuclear capability until such time as the world comes to its senses regarding nukes." All this coming amidst mounting tensions with North Korea over its nuclear program. Overnight, a show of force. U.S. bombers flying near the Sea of Japan alongside Japanese and South Korean aircraft. President Trump meeting with his national security team Tuesday to discuss the crisis. The defense secretary stressing diplomacy this week, while cautioning all options are on the table.
You have got to be ready to ensure that we have military options that our president can employ if needed.
The White House wouldn't comment on the record for this story, but one White House official downplayed any tensions surrounding nuclear weapons at the July 20th meeting, saying the nuclear arsenal was not a primary topic of the briefing. A spokesperson for the Pentagon would only say the defense secretary's conversations with the president are privileged. The Trump administration is in the process of modernizing its nuclear arsenal, which does not violate any treaties.
So it's clear that scalar weapons have made nuclear weapons obsolete, and you can imagine the cost of first creating even more nuclear weapons, so we already have enough to blow ourselves up and our planet up 42 times or whatever. So we should be switching to other cleaner forms of energy and invest in that instead of more nukes, basically. So let me know what you all think, but I'm against more nukes. I still endorse Trump, and I basically am wondering what is going to happen qua ending or auditing the Fed, the wall, and some other things President Trump has talked about, promises he made. But he did mention also getting rid of them completely, which I think is a better option if we decide to ban nuclear weapons worldwide. That would be awesome. I think I'd be for that in reality. Because I think it's stupid to surround ourselves with these weapons of self-destruction that can go off any second. So basically I'm totally anti-nuclear anything. We could have been watching Megyn Kelly all this time. Misplaced bombers over Korea. What if Korea would fly bombers over the US? But basically we're dealing with this colossal military industrial complex. And of course the Americans will spend more on that than any other country, basically. I'm feeling tired. So two strategic bombers over the Korean peninsula in a show of force. Look, I can fly two bombers over your Korean peninsula. They are big, aren't they? They sure are big. Well, whatever. A world war has to be prevented. Some people would rather blow up the whole world if they could with themselves on it. Some people would really do that if they would get the chance. So we should prevent these people from infiltrating our governments and doing the wrong thing for the people of planet Earth, including themselves. Morons exist. I don't, or not this one. I'm convinced morons exist. Not saying you are one. Absolutely not. I think there are many people that agree with me that would want to get rid of all nuclear weapons like Superman in the movie. We don't want mutually assured destruction, etc. And I'm also thinking, well, perhaps it's better to do other things, not to waste our time on these articles online, which are mainstream media fluff. They need to write about something. So usually it's not really what's happening, it's just the stuff they want you to believe that is happening, with these fake attacks with crisis actors and fake demonstrators, fake protesters that are paid to protest. So are the people living in a dream, or is the mainstream media living in a dream, trying to push this, to spin it, to shove it, etc.? Well, I think I'm going to temporarily halt this broadcast for universal peace now and forever.